Hey everyone, I'm going to be talking about migration policy memo briefly. Okay, this memo is addressed to President Trump. Mr. Trump, following your recent request, here are some suggestions pertaining to actions you can take regarding changes in border security and immigration enforcement funding. It is important to keep in mind that immigration enforcement agencies have become the top recipients of federal law enforcement dollars. As a result, border enforcement has been slow to adapt to the challenges associated with these changes in the characteristics of migrant arrivals. Consequently, the asylum system has become overwhelmed, and an already overtaxed immigration court system faces historically unprecedented pressures. There is a growing need to build enforcement capacity and fund strategies that respond to changing migration flows. The most urgent border security needs are in buttressing the asylum and immigration court systems, also strengthening infrastructure that includes detection technology at official ports of entry where most illegal drugs pass through. Here's some background information, Mr. President. There's debate over funding the U.S.-Mexico border security at the cornerstone of budget negotiations that resulted in a partial shutdown for the federal government in late 2018 and early 2019. Debates around immigration enforcement funding have centered mostly on your pledge that a wall be built along the U.S.-Mexico border. Yet this focus on the border wall has eclipsed a harsher reality related to border security funding. Growth and investment in border and immigration enforcement has been successfully provided by Congress since 9/11. Such investments include a broad mix of support for Border Patrol and port of entry staffing, facilities, surveillance, and contraband detection technology. Migration patterns at the southwest border are changing rapidly, and the U.S. is spending 30% more on immigration enforcement than all other principal federal and criminal law enforcement agencies combined. Border enforcement has been quite slow in adapting to the challenges posed by changes in the characteristics of migrant arrivals. As border spending increases, there have been dramatic decreases in the numbers of Mexican migrants apprehended by the U.S. Border Patrol while trying to cross the southwest border. The arriving migrant population has shifted from young Mexican males seeking work in the United States to primarily families and children from Central America migrating for various reasons. U.S. Border Patrols have had to deal with more vulnerable populations who are overwhelming existing facilities and processing capacity. Now, here are the objectives of my policy memo. The main objectives of this policy memo are to outline the need to build enforcement capacity and fund strategies that respond to changing migration flows. Enhancement of line watch and sign cutting, traffic checkpoints, transportation checks, marine patrol, and horseback patrol are tools that can help prevent illegal and dangerous entry into the United States. The most urgent border security needs are in buttressing the asylum and immigration court systems. There must be a fair and impartial standard in place that reduces the number of asylum seekers and provides them with a pathway to citizenship. The immigration court system must set up to aid non-criminal aliens in securing citizenship in the U.S. We must find a way to differentiate between hardworking and nonviolent immigrants versus immigrants who are convicted felons. Nonviolent immigrants deserve a pathway to citizenship, and immigration courts must expedite this process. It's important to strengthen infrastructure as well. That includes detection technology at official ports of entry where most illegal drugs pass through. Other issues we can consider include the slow rate of integration between the U.S. Border Patrol's biometric database of illegal aliens and the Federal Bureau of Investigation's biometric database of criminals and terrorists. Now, here are some opportunities and challenges. The enhancement of border security measures along the southern border and guaranteeing citizenship for non-criminal asylum seekers are two issues that ends with each other. More conservative people view border security as the more urgent need, while liberals like to view civil liberties as an equitable issue. I think securing a strong and safe border should be a more bipartisan issue, but both sides of the political spectrum have their agendas at play. This memo promotes the enhancement of line watching, sign cutting, traffic checkpoints, transportation checks, marine patrol, and horse-bike patrol. Hold on, my battery's running a little low. One second. Okay. These security measures allow for a safer border where illegal immigration is discouraged. Yet the plight of asylum seekers must not be ignored. There is difficulty for displaced persons seeking asylum in the United States. The lack of opportunities to legally access the asylum procedures often forces asylum seekers to undergo expensive and hazardous attempts at illegal entry. Many asylum seekers are not seen as legitimate migrants and are treated as illegal aliens. They are known as failed asylum seekers, and many are often placed in immigration detention before being deported. We must find a way for non-criminal asylum seekers to be granted an ability to work and access to healthcare. A more humane treatment of asylum seekers is necessary to promote a more sustainable and compassionate U.S. immigration policy. Here are some of the players and perspectives. The most important players for our policy memo will be the U.S., Mexico, federal and state governments, U.S. Border Patrol, Mexican immigrants, and NGOs. Under our domestic and international law, it's the right of migrants arriving at the border to seek asylum. America must help asylum seekers because it helps maintain our position of leadership in the world. Once they cross the border, asylum seekers must deal with Border Patrol agents interrogating them in a strict immigration court processes. A safer border and also a fair asylum-seeking process are paramount to ensuring a better immigration partnership between the U.S. and Mexico. Here are the following 3 options I recommend. Process asylum claims more efficiently by letting asylum officers, not immigration judges, make the initial decisions in asylum cases. Migrants arriving at the border with strong claims would have their asylum approved more quickly, allowing them to bring their families to the United States rather than waiting years for a hearing. Option 2 is to bring back work to resettlement agencies by having the government contract with them to house families seeking asylum. Under this plan, families would be located in proximity to one another and have access to schools, medical facilities, and lawyers. Option 3 involves securing a safer border by enhancing border security. Technology, including cameras, fixed towers, and aerial and underground sensors, can help combat cartels crossing the border. Also, investing in the biometric entry-exit system at all ports of entry screens those who enter into the United States more efficiently and effectively. Here are some of the analysis of my options. Option 1 would allow asylum-seeking immigrants to bring their families to the United States more and quickly. A possible drawback to option 1 is that relying on asylum officers will be costing time-consuming at first. The immigration system is slow to change, so the transition to asylum officers is a necessary, albeit expensive one. Option 2 is important in that it avoids prolonged detention and the quick releasing of families at the border. Although these asylum seekers would be monitored with ankle bracelets, their movements are not restricted. Under this option, asylum seekers are not locked up like criminals and are less likely to disappear into undocumented life in American cities. A drawback would be funding the resettlement agencies under your administration. Option 3 secures a safer border by enhancing border security. Technology is implemented to combat cartel crossings and ensure a smoother port of entry process. A wall cannot perform the various functions necessary to apprehend crossers, screen migrants, and detect illicit behavior. There's a need for a new 21st century approach to border security, and it's something politicians continue to fight for on Capitol Hill. Placing certain technology in the right places and training the skill set of personnel in key agencies will make America safer. Of the 3 options outlined above, I would recommend a combination of option 1 and 3. The rights of asylum seekers to a speedier immigration process is equally necessary to securing a safer border through the most advanced defensive technology. Encouraging a fair process for immigrants to reclaim their lives in the United States makes our country a more noble and just place to migrate to. This option allows asylum seekers, in particular, a more expedited process towards resettling in the U.S. through legal means. Option 3 outlines how increased border security is equally, if not more important than option 1. Mexico and the United States in particular rely on a strong border that promotes border security and combats criminals from coming across into either country. I know your administration is tough on border security, but the proposed border wall is not the answer. read back over my technological proposals to border security, as they are more practical and less costly than your wall. Thank you for listening to my policy memo. That is it.